Hi, this is Doogie, PA Camping Dad, and I'm going to show you how I make a bishop bag. This is for my hammock. This currently has a hammock envy inside with a couple Kevlar straps, and then the whole hammock is in there with some other little doodads attached, a peak bag and ridgeline organizer, triangle thingies. And the way I use this is pull out my suspension, put it around the trees, hook my continuous loop here, actually start with this end, hook this loop on, play it out of the bag, come to the other end and hook it up. And I have a little pocket here for stowing the continuous loop, and then I just leave in the bottom here dog bone in case I need a little extension on some part of my hammock. So let me show you how I make this. The first step is to cut out your pieces that you're going to use. I decided that I was going to make my tube 16 inches in circumference, and so then I added a 3/4 inch seam allowance to both edges, and I was going to make it 12 inches high, and I added 1 3/4 seam allowance for that. I gave an extra 1/4 inch on the top for the rolled hem that'll have the drawstring in it. And then I cut two, and to make my 16 inch in circumference, I'm going to make a square bottom that is 4 inches on a side. Again, I added my seam allowance of 1.5 inches, so this is a 5.5 by 5.5 square. And I actually this is actually a 5.5 by 11 rectangle, and I folded it in half. This is the edge here that I just folded, and I will make a fake rolled hem there. I guess I could probably get away with making it smaller, and I pinned the two sides down and left the other side loose. And I've marked down 2.5 inches down on each side, and I'm going to trim that off. And this is going to make my pocket that I hold my suspension, my continuous loop I tuck in there, and then I keep a spare dog bone in case I need extended length at any point. And now I'll take this and I'm going to do a rolled hem here. So just roll that up, and then I will sew that without getting the flap behind. I normally don't pin my ends. So there's my finished pocket, and it will look like that in the end. I decided to just run a quick row of stitching around the outside edge so that I wouldn't have to keep it pinned, and I'll perform the rolled hem when I attach it to the main body. So here I have the main body of my, so I just did a small roll in the end there and pinned it. So And that's it. On to the next step. One step that I don't want to forget is for the bishop bag, I need to have a way to pass the suspension out through the bottom of the bag. So what I do is I put a buttonhole in here. So I will stitch that now while it's easy on this piece of fabric. And you just want it to be centered and above this so that the bag will hang like that, and you'll have your suspension. It'll hang off of your suspension, and you can still, the pocket won't obviously drop anything out of it, and you'll have a lot of useful bag hanging below the suspension. I'm just going to eyeball it. There's the bottom all completed. Now comes the tricky part where we pin this onto the tube. Now we want to make sure that when we do this, we pin the pocket on the inside so that when we turn it right side out, this tube is inside out right now, when we turn it right side out, the pocket will be on the outside. Well, this is by far the trickiest part of this build. I decided to put the seam on the side, and I just started rolling, matching the two edges together, doing a full roll and pinning it, and working my way around. And when I did it the first time, the last side had too much fabric, so my seams are a little smaller than I had anticipated. So I trimmed a little bit off the bottom of my pouch. I didn't want to trim off the top because I wanted all that room for the buttonhole on the top of the pouch, but I trimmed just that 3/8 of an inch off the bottom two sides, and that looks like it's going to work out just right. So here I'm coming up to the final side, pull them up and match, and do a full roll. And the corners are a bit fiddly, but just flatten them down and pin it. And that's basically it. We've worked our way all the way around now. And now it's just a matter of running a stitch all the way around. I think I'm going to pin these two corners really well so that I make sure they stay rolled. I want that roll to get under there. And I've just learned that you really want to have every seam completely rolled with this ripstop. Initially, my first couple stuff sacks, I did not do that, and I regretted it. Things would start tangling in the little furs inside the bag, so you want the inside to be as clean as the outside. Alright, I'll start sewing it. Stitch. that. Should be it. Yeah, we did. Not bad. So that's the bottom of our bishop bag. All that's left is to do a rolled hem on the top. So I'm getting ready to do my roll on the top. I'm going to try a new technique for finishing off the passing the cord out of the drawstring. I saw some other people use just to make a gap in the hem. So I like sewing my cord directly in. I started by going all the way around and making a turn. I have this right side out, and I'm going to make this on the outside because the way I'm going to do this is to just have the cord come out here. And so we'll start. Make sure that we have a nice solid back stitch on this. Just roll this around while I have my drawstring already in there. That keeps us from having to feed it through later. That should be it. All that was left to do is to tie the cords. Need a little knot in the end, and you can either finish with a cord lock, or I just did a couple wraps of a cord, tied a knot there to make a sliding piece. I don't really like cord locks that much. It's not that critical. And that's all there is to it. Get out there and have fun.